Claire's hands trembled as she opened the thick embossed envelope, her name etched across the front in elegant gold script. She had never seen anything like it. The letter inside, written on expensive, heavy parchment, was brief yet bewildering. It claimed that she was the heir to a fortune belonging to Thomas Aldridge, a billionaire she had never heard of. The only connection was a name, her father's name, written in the faintest ink on a family tree. The words felt foreign, like they didn't belong in her life. Her father had disappeared when she was a baby. Claire had grown up with no family, no inheritance, and no ties to the past. She never imagined that one day she would find herself standing at the door of a law firm, clutching a letter telling her she was part of a legacy she knew nothing about. I must be in the wrong place, Claire muttered to herself, glancing around at the marble floors and polished wood paneling. This place seemed too grand, too out of reach for someone like her. The receptionist, a young woman in a crisp white blouse, looked up and smiled. "Miss Aldridge," she asked politely. Claire nodded, unsure of what to say. How did she even fit in here? A few moments later, she was escorted to a large office. Mr. Foster, the lawyer, greeted her with a firm handshake. He was an older man, well-dressed, his gray hair neatly combed back. He gestured for her to sit. "Thank you for coming, Ms. Aldridge," Mr. Foster said, his voice smooth, but with a hint of formality that seemed to suggest this wasn't just a typical inheritance case. "I trust you found the office without issue." "Yes, but I'm not sure why I'm here," Claire admitted, looking at the thick file in front of her. "I don't even know this man, Thomas Aldridge. Why am I his heir?" Mr. Foster smiled faintly, as though he had expected her confusion. "It's a long story, Ms. Aldridge, but one that must be told. You are his granddaughter, though you never knew him. You were born just before your father disappeared." Claire's heart skipped a beat. Her father, the man who had vanished without a trace when she was only a baby, she had lived her entire life without knowing what had happened to him. And now, this. "Your father was estranged from your grandfather for many years," Mr. Foster continued. "But when Thomas Aldridge passed away, his will made one thing clear. You are his only surviving relative, and you stand to inherit everything." Claire couldn't fathom it. She had spent her life working as an artist, scraping by, struggling to pay rent, and now she was sitting here, listening to a lawyer tell her that she was suddenly a billionaire. But there was a catch, wasn't there? "There's more, isn't there?" Claire asked, unable to hide the skepticism in her voice. Mr. Foster's expression turned serious. "Yes. Along with your inheritance, you'll find a journal. Your grandfather wrote it himself. It contains the key to understanding why your father was disinherited and why your family has been kept a secret. You may not want to know what's in it, but I believe it's necessary for you to understand your legacy fully." Claire's head spun. How could she have been kept in the dark all these years? What kind of secrets were hidden in this journal? With shaking hands, she accepted the journal. The leather cover was weathered, and it felt heavy, as though it held more than just paper, more than just words. Mr. Foster stood and handed her the journal. "I suggest you start with the first entry. Everything you need to know is inside. The rest, well, it's up to you to decide how far you want to go." As Claire walked out of the law firm, the weight of the journal in her hands felt almost suffocating. She wanted to know what had happened to her father, but at the same time, she feared the truth. Was it a story of betrayal? Regret? Love lost? With a deep breath, she sat in her car, the journal resting on her lap. She opened it carefully, the pages yellowed with age. The first entry was dated just a few years before her father disappeared. September 13th, 1985. To my daughter, Catherine. I have seen the truth now, and I cannot stay silent any longer. You have a granddaughter, and she deserves to know who she is. I've spent my life protecting my family from the very thing I've built, but in doing so, I have also betrayed them. I never wanted you to know the things I've done, but now, in my final years, I find that I have no choice. You must understand this. It is not the fortune I've made that matters, but the legacy I leave behind. The true legacy, Catherine, is hidden within the walls of the Aldridge estate. The mansion, the one you never knew about, holds the key to everything. Claire's heart raced as she read. Her grandfather had hidden a mansion? Why? What could possibly be hidden in a place that was tied to her family's darkest secrets? She had to know more. She started the engine of her car, her mind already racing ahead, planning her next move. The estate, the mansion. She had to find it. But she was not alone in this search. A shadow followed her, a figure Claire had seen at the law firm earlier, someone who was far too interested in her every move. It wasn't just the inheritance she had to worry about now. Someone else was after the legacy, someone who would stop at nothing to find it first. Claire could barely focus on the road as she drove, her mind consumed with the journal's cryptic message. The idea of a hidden mansion tied to her grandfather's estate filled her thoughts. What was her father involved in? What dark secrets could the mansion possibly hold that were powerful enough to tear her family apart? The city gave way to countryside and the buildings thinned out. Claire's heart raced as she followed the journal's clues. It spoke of a mansion that had been abandoned, hidden deep within a forested area. It had been decades since anyone had seen it, but the journal's final line made one thing clear. The mansion will hold your father's final truth, but it will not be easy to find. As she entered the wooded area, Claire's senses heightened. The trees closed in, casting long shadows across the narrow road. She pulled into a gravel parking lot, feeling the eerie silence of the place settle over her like a thick fog. The mansion had to be somewhere nearby. The ground was uneven, and Claire stumbled as she walked through the dense underbrush. Then, through the trees, she saw it. An old crumbling mansion, its stone facade covered in ivy. It looked abandoned, as if time had forgotten it, but something about it felt alive, almost as if it was waiting for her to arrive. She stood at the entrance for a moment, hesitant. The mansion seemed to loom over her, a silent guardian of secrets buried long ago. Claire swallowed her fear and stepped forward, pushing open the heavy wooden door. It creaked in. Protest, and the cold, musty air inside hit her immediately. The mansion had been untouched for years, but it still felt familiar. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Cobwebs lined the corners, and the faint smell of old wood filled her nostrils. She didn't know where to start. The journal had given no further instructions, only that she needed to find something hidden within these walls. But what? Where could it be? She slowly made her way through the house, her footsteps echoing in the vast empty hallways. The rooms were eerily quiet, the silence broken only by the occasional groan of the old structure. As she walked, her eyes caught sight of old photographs hanging crookedly on the walls. Some were of her grandfather, Thomas Aldridge, others of her father, someone she barely recognized, a man who had been a stranger to her for most of her life. Her thoughts were interrupted by a loud crash from somewhere deeper within the mansion. Claire froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Someone else was here. She had known it all along. The shadowy figure that had been following her was closer now, and Claire realized she wasn't alone in this search. She held her breath and crept toward the sound. It came from the library, an ancient room filled with tall bookshelves and dusty tomes. The door to the library was ajar. She pushed it open, her fingers trembling as they brushed against the frame. Inside, a man was rifling through the shelves, his back turned to her. Claire recognized him immediately, the same man she had seen at the law firm, the same one who had been watching her every move. "Who are you?" Claire demanded, stepping into the room, her voice stronger than she felt. The man turned slowly, his face cold and calculating. He was in his late 50s, his eyes sharp and calculating. "I could ask you the same question, Ms. Aldridge," he said, his voice low. "But I'm afraid we both know why you're here." Claire took a step back, her hand instinctively reaching for the journal she still clutched tightly in her grasp. "You're following me," she said, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. "What do you want?" The man smirked. "I want what's mine," he replied. "The Aldridge Legacy is not meant for someone like you. Your grandfather left behind more than just a fortune. He left behind power, secrets that only I'm meant to uncover. I've spent years searching for this place, and now you've come to steal it from me." Claire took another step back, her heart racing. This wasn't just about money. This was something far bigger. The journal in her hand felt heavier now, as though it was a beacon, drawing them both toward the same dark truth. I'm not here to steal anything, she said, her voice steadier now. I'm just trying to understand what happened to my father. Why did he disappear? What was he involved in? The man's expression hardened. Your father? You think he's the key to this? He let out a bitter laugh. Your father wasn't just involved in this family's legacy. He was a part of a plan that's been hidden for decades. Your father wanted to expose the truth, but they silenced him before he could. Claire's mind reeled. Silenced? What do you mean? The Aldridge family has always been involved in more than just business. There were deals, dangerous ones that involved people who wanted our family's wealth and power for themselves. Your father uncovered something dangerous, and they killed him for it. Claire's heart stopped. She had always wondered why her father had disappeared. She had never imagined that his death was tied to something this dark. She was standing in a house filled with secrets her family had kept hidden for years, secrets that now seemed to be threatening her very life. You're lying, Claire whispered, shaking her head. This doesn't make any sense. The man stepped forward, his gaze unyielding. It's the truth, and now you're in the middle of it, but it's not too late. You can still join me. Together, we can unlock everything this family has kept hidden. We can have it all. Claire's mind was a whirlwind. She wanted to run, to escape from this nightmare, but she couldn't. She had come too far to back down now. Her father's death, her family's legacy, everything was connected, and Claire had to know the truth, no matter the cost. I'm not here to join you, she said, her voice hardening. I'm here to stop you. The man's face twisted in anger. Then you'll regret it, Claire. Claire backed away, her heart racing. The man's cold gaze never left her, as he advanced slowly. Her mind raced, trying to come up with a plan. She had to get away from him and find out what had really happened to her father. As she stumbled toward the door, her fingers brushing against the old wooden paneling of the mansion, she caught sight of a large portrait hanging on the wall. It was a painting of her grandfather, Thomas Aldridge, but there was something odd about it. The expression on his face was guarded, almost as if he was hiding something. She stopped, staring at the portrait for a moment, and then her eyes widened. The portrait wasn't just a painting, it was a hidden compartment. The frame, though large and ornate, was slightly askew. Claire approached it carefully, her pulse quickening. She pulled at the corner of the frame, and to her surprise, it gave way. Inside the wall was a small safe, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. The man, realizing what she was doing, shouted, "No, don't touch that!" But Claire wasn't about to stop now. She had come too far. She quickly spun the dial, her fingers trembling with urgency, and the safe opened with a faint click. Inside, there was a stack of papers and what looked like another journal, but this one was older. The edges of the pages were frayed, the ink faded with time. She pulled it out, not bothering to read it right away. There was no time for that now. Claire, you have no idea what you're getting yourself into, the man said again, his voice thick with fury. This isn't just about your father. It's about the family's legacy. The Aldridges built empires. You'll never understand the power at play here. I don't need to understand your lies, Claire snapped, clutching the journal tightly. I just need to know the truth. The man lunged toward her, but Claire was already running, darting through the mansion's maze of rooms. She had to get out. She had to figure out what had happened to her father and why her family had been dragged into this web of power, secrecy, and danger. As she ran, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The mansion seemed alive with the echoes of its past, each corner hiding its own dark secret. She reached the front door and pushed it open, only to be stopped by the sound of heavy footsteps behind her. The man was closing in fast. "Leave me alone," Claire shouted, but he didn't stop. In that moment, Claire realized that she had to make a choice. She could run, again like her father had, or she could face whatever truth lay ahead. The journal in her hands felt heavier with each step. She wasn't about to let her family's dark past dictate her future. She turned to face him, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "You're not going to stop me. I'll find the truth, no matter what." For a moment, the man's eyes narrowed, a hint of respect in his gaze, but it quickly turned to frustration. "You're making a mistake," he said, his voice low. "But you'll see. You'll see how deep this runs." Claire didn't say another word. She stepped forward, determined to take control of her destiny. The mansion was vast, its history murky, but Claire had something more than just the desire to know the truth. She had the strength to uncover it. The next day, Claire found herself back at the law firm, the mysterious journal and the papers from the safe in her hands. She had spent the night poring over them, reading through the faded words of her grandfather's final entry and the scattered documents that hinted at something far darker than she had ever imagined. As she sat in Mr. Foster's office, she handed him the journal. His face was unreadable as he flipped through the pages. "You found it," Mr. Foster said quietly. "I was hoping you would." "I don't understand," Claire replied, her voice trembling with emotion. "What is all of this? My father, he wasn't just trying to expose the family's wealth, was he? There's something far more sinister going on here, isn't there?" Mr. Foster sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. "Your father discovered something, Claire. Something that could destroy everything your family has built. It wasn't just about money. It was about power, about your family's connection to organizations that no one should ever know about. Your father wanted to expose the truth, but he was too close. They killed him to keep the secret buried." Claire's heart pounded in her chest. Who killed him? Who would do something like that? Mr. Foster paused for a long moment before answering. "There are people who will do anything to protect their power. They'll stop at nothing. And now they know you found the truth. You're in danger, Claire. But it's not too late. You can finish what your father started. You can expose them." Claire's mind raced. Her father had been right all along. The Aldridge family's wealth and legacy weren't just about money. They were tied to something far darker, something that had the potential to change everything. And now it was up to her to finish the fight her father had started, to uncover the truth and take down the people who had silenced him. But she couldn't do it alone. She needed help. She needed allies. And she knew that no matter how dangerous it was, she couldn't back down. Her grandfather's legacy, the mansion, the journal, all of it was part of a much bigger puzzle, one that Claire had no choice but to solve. She had to find out who was behind her father's death, who was pulling the strings behind the scenes, and what it all meant for the future of her family's legacy. "I won't stop," Claire said firmly. "I'll make sure the truth comes to light." Mr. Foster looked at her, his expression grave. "Just be careful. There are things in this world that shouldn't be uncovered, but if you're ready to face it, then you must prepare for the consequences."